She is on the faculty of the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College here in Philly. She is the founder of the Tikkun Olam Chavurah. She is a movement elder and a deep well of Torah and an incredible listener. And she has been a leader lifting up the call for peace and justice in Israel and Palestine for decades. We have so much to learn from her, and we're so honored to hear your Torah tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you all. And I'm just so glad to say that I'm a rabbi for Ceasefire. So that's just, and if you are a rabbi for Ceasefire and you're in this room, why don't you stand? Let's just see who, there's one. Yes. If you are out there in the universe and you're a rabbi for Ceasefire, you should be standing and know that you are being cheered for because it's sacred work and it's an honor to be doing it together. So I often wonder what it was like for the ancient Egyptians as they watched the Israelites working and straining for them, building these huge constructions, struggling to keep going from day to day. What could it have been like? And I often wonder what it was like for the Israelites as they heard the cries that overtook the land the night that all the firstborn Egyptian sons were killed so that they could go free. What could it have been like? Did they sing loudly while they ate the roast lamb they were commanded to eat to try to drown out the cries? Did they tell their children that the people being killed, they were planning to hurt them, so they just had to die? Did anyone try to intervene to stop the killing? Or did it, like every other story in our Torah, just seem inevitable? Of course it had to happen that way. The end of such a long period of suffering had to end with pain and with dying. It simply had to. Or at least it seems that way when we read the story. The other night I had a disconcerting dream. I don't have subtle dreams. I have dreams that kind of beat me over the head. I don't know about all of you. But in my dream, I was talking to a coworker about their challenges in work and whatever. They were talking to me. And I looked up and I suddenly saw there was a tiger at the door, looking directly at us. Right, see, I said not subtle. Don't move, I said to my friend. There's a tiger in the room, sitting on the other side of the room. Oh, they casually responded. Yeah, I guess there is. Well, I tried to barricade myself behind a door, climb under the desk, get into the next room, do everything I could. My colleague just kept on talking, oblivious to the danger that I saw. And in fact, the tiger didn't even seem to be approaching them. The tiger was clearly stalking me. I woke up in a panic. The Torah portion this week does not include tigers, but it does, Parshat Bo, move us through the final 3 plagues that the ancient Egyptians were smitten with. So it does include locusts, it does include darkness, and it does include the final and most horrific of all, the killing of the firstborn Egyptians. And as in my dream, there are some who are directly experiencing this killing, the suffering, the pain, and there are others who are safe in their homes, this time with blood over their doorways that supposedly would keep them safe. Supposedly would keep them safe. The story's complicated. The Israelites have been enslaved in ancient Egypt for over 400 years, so their need to be free is enormous. And it seems clear that Pharaoh will not let them leave without this ultimate of threats. But there are still so many unanswered questions, so many ways to look at this story that we've just begun to do. For me, among the best ways to understand either significant dreams or significant stories is to put myself inside of them as completely as I can, seeing all of it as part of me. I am the person terrified and blockaded in the other room. I am the colleague who doesn't even care that there's a tiger hanging out there. And I am the tiger, angry and ready to attack the one vulnerable person. And in the Torah portion, I am everyone. I'm Moses leading the people. I'm the Israelites themselves. I'm the Egyptians, the Pharaoh, and of course, I'm God. Occasionally, when we look at this story from every possible character's perspective, when we allow ourselves to actually become those characters, then we begin to see just how complicated it is. As an Israelite who knows only slavery, what compassion do I have for the Egyptian slaveholders and their families? I feel my own rage and pain and desperation that blind me to anything beyond myself. And as Moses, I am stuck in the middle. A God who commands me to act and then makes every single step of the way as difficult as is possible, hardening Pharaoh's heart, forcing the death of Egyptians, many whom through the years growing up in the palace, I've come to know well. And as Pharaoh, I just want my power, and I am so worried about losing it. And as an Egyptian, as an ancient Egyptian, I am terrified. Who in my family will be killed? What horrible thing will happen next? So we read this story, and it feels as if the entire course of events, of course, is inevitable. There will be plagues that end with death, and the Israelites will sit back and eat the roast lamb while the killing takes place, almost as if they don't notice what's happening, almost as if they cannot possibly have any role in changing these events. Only an external God can be in control. Every story that I read in Torah, I read with a question. How can this story, how can this myth move me to act more justly? How can I understand it deeply enough to have it change my life and the impact that I can have on the world? So a confession, I don't believe in an external God. One who acts on much of a confession. Although every B'nai Mitzvah student would say, oh, Rabbi, I have something to tell you. and then they'll tell me that, it's okay. So I don't believe in an external God and one who acts in the world from somewhere beyond. I am a true Kaplanian Reconstructionist. I am one of the 6 left. As one of those Reconstructionists, I see God.
There's more rabbis for Ceasefire than Canadian.
That's really the truth. There really are more rabbis for Ceasefire than there are Kaplanian Reconstructionists. We are a dying breed. It's all right. So as such, I see God as Kaplan said, and you all know this, some of you were rabbinical students or are, the power that makes for salvation, right? So what does that mean? It means whatever power there is within me and whatever power there is within us that moves us to bring greater justice to this world. When I step inside this story, God is within me and within all of the characters in the story and is not a separate being. within the Israelites and the Egyptians and Moses and even Pharaoh. And that changes everything. The Israelites and the ancient Egyptians suddenly have power they didn't even know. If they can find a way to see each other, they can make a difference in the world without needing so many to be killed. Now we know how much gets in their way. We know that they've lived within a system that has created a serious power disparity for over 400 years. We know that they have seen each other in such limited ways. Theirs has been a completely transactional relationship, right? It's the powerful asking for things, demanding things of the enslaved, of the powerless. And both are living in an authoritarian state that teaches everyone that they are all truly powerless. So this year we read this story, and as we do, let's imagine. Let's imagine ourselves as both ancient Egyptians and Israelites and Pharaoh and Moses. And the question that we ask is, can that God that is within us move us to act justly, to make a difference in the world? In the book of Deuteronomy, we read, Tzedek, Tzedek tirdof. Justice, justice, you shall pursue. And I can pretty much guarantee that when you reach Deuteronomy this year, like every year, someone is going to say, why two words tzedek? Why is justice repeated? And the answer for me jumped up this week in this Torah portion. Tzedek is repeated because it is not easy to come by. You might think you have found it, tzedek number one. But wait a minute. Look at the story from every side. Look at what's happening to people in the story. Look at all of it. Not just tzedek for some, tzedek for all. The tiger in my dream may have seemed to be avoidable to this person, but in fact, it's affecting everyone's lives. If we can step in and imagine the world without a tiger, then we're doing something. The angel of death is there in today's story. But imagine if people had the power to remove it from the story. This week is the Shabbat for ceasefire. And if that's going to mean anything at all, it better be a powerful call for justice. The demand has to be that we put ourselves as fully as possible into the experience of both Israelis and Palestinians. We open our eyes and we open our hearts so that we can be a force for justice, to make a difference. We imagine that we are Israeli. We've been in power since 1948, but we always feel vulnerable and uncertain around those around us. We live in a kind of a bubble that convinces us that because we are here, we keep the world Jewry all safe. And then October 7th happens. And then our belief is shattered. And we're trying to pick up the pieces. And our leaders are lashing out against all the people even remotely connected to that shattering. And so many of us are averting our eyes so that we don't experience the trauma that's being raised for us. It's too painful for us to live with that trauma. That trauma puts us in fight or freeze or flight mode, and here we are and we're stuck. Can we imagine being those Israelis? And we, maybe even harder to imagine, we are the people of Gaza. We are the journalists. We are the healthcare professionals. We are the teachers. We are the workers in every area, and our lives have been completely upended. Around us totally is death, is destruction, is pain, is suffering, is hunger and thirst, is pure desperation. We watch the whole world talk. Even those who claim to be noticing what we're going through, we're watching them talk, and they're talking and talking. And the bombing is continuing every single day. The talking doesn't change our lives. Can we even imagine such pain? No matter how many stories we read, no matter how much we try to experience what it is that the people of Gaza are enduring, no matter how many photographs we're confronted with, no matter how many new horrors we learn about, and we learn about new horrors every single day, putting ourselves in that story is almost impossible. But that doesn't let us off the hook. I was struggling the other day with exactly this question. If I can't fully empathize, can I bring myself to really do everything I need to do? And my friend Rebecca Alpert, who was always helpful to me, sent me an opinion piece from the New York Times that I had missed. Have Some Sympathy, it's called, by Pamela Paul. In it, Paul is clear that empathy, putting ourselves as fully into the experience of others as much as we can, is admirable, is wonderful, and we just can't always do it. Sympathy, she argues, has gotten a bad rap. Realizing that the challenge I've set for myself and for all of us, yes, we are the people of Gaza, that may be completely impossible. We are still completely responsible. Completely responsible. Tzedek, Tirdof, means that even when we can't imagine what it would feel like to be in the middle of Gaza right now, we are not exempt from doing the work that's needed. There's a mass murder taking place in Gaza. Take that in for a moment. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people, including, as you said before, thousands of children, are being murdered every single day in Gaza. If we can put ourselves there and feel that, that's extraordinary. And if we can't, we still are absolutely have to do the work. There is no justice in Gaza right now. No justice. Our obligation is to try to put ourselves in the place of Israelis living with the crimes of our leaders, struggling to come to terms what's happening, but we may never get there. We may never understand the fear and desperation of the people of Gaza. But working for ceasefire, whether we get there or not, that's the work we need to do. So let's start by imagining a different Exodus story. One where the Israelites were able to stand up to God and say, no, don't kill the Egyptian people because of their leaders' crimes. One where the Egyptians can realize that the Israelites they've been oppressing for over 400 years are human beings. We face this Torah portion by imagining that dreams of tigers approaching us only leave us powerless if we let them, if we don't do all the work together to challenge them. So we start this Shabbat by taking this day to reaffirm our commitment to keeping our eyes and our hearts open, and to know that the whole world will be safer, that justice will be greater, and that the lives of so many can be saved, can be safe, can be full, if we do that work and we never give up. May we all do our part to bring this about. Can you hear us?